All right, welcome back, artists and designers. This is part 2 or step 2 where we are removing the background of our sunflower. So we are going to open our smart object layer. We're going to create the mask in the separate file and then go back to the original document. And I just want to talk about some of our selection options, show you the mask layer mode. In that window, we'll refine our selection and then kind of output and save. And this is the hardest step. This takes some practice. So let's dive in here. So I have my sunflower in here, and the key is make sure if you didn't do this in the last step, take one more option. Even though it already is a smart object, hit convert to smart object. That will make it a smart object as part of this file. I found that out the hard way before. So now I should be able to double click on the thumbnail, and it takes me into a new tab where I am only looking at my original image and my document is back here. So what we want to do is we want to mask this out. The bad way to do this would be to try and take the eraser and actually erase out the background, and you can already see it saying, oh, you can't erase the pixels on this because this is a smart object. So that's fine. We're not gonna do that. Don't use the eraser. Okay, we're going to use one of our selection tools. So there's a whole bunch of them up here. You could take, for example, the lasso, and if I tried to draw around this with the lasso and, be careful, that would take a really long time and it would probably look like a kindergartner cutting out some sort of background if I did that. So that's not going to be a very efficient method for this one. Underneath that, you have the object selection, the quick selection, and the magic wand. Of course, you could try, the magic wand is a bit old school. I could try to click on something and do that, but the magic wand kind of selects the color and the pixels that are there, and it's going to have a hard time with something more complicated like this. So that's not going to be a very functional way. The quick selection is great. The quick selection tool, if I deselect, Control D, the quick selection allows you to kind of drag over things, and it's pretty smart and goes, oh, you want to grab this, and so that's a pretty functional way to do it. So the quick selection is great, and we're going to come back to that one in a second. But let's take a look at one more. This is a newer one they added, so that's the object selection right here. And by default, I think we have this. Let me go back to my defaults. This is rectangle. So by default, it has this rectangle, and when you drag over something that you want to select, it's going to do its best to use AI to select that. Now, if I want to add more to this, I would want to go up here. Anytime you have a selection tool, when you select, by default, it's going to have like, oh, you want something new. So if I drag to get these leaves, it's going to deselect what I had before and make something new. So what I want to do is I want to add to that selection. So I'm going to click this right here. So every time I drag, it's going to kind of add those additional parts to what I already have selected, and that's going to be a good way to do it. So they have the rectangle. They also have, what's kind of cool is they have the lasso. So I can click the lasso tool. If I deselect, Control D, I could use the lasso to kind of roughly select the flower up top. It does a pretty good job there. I'm going to zoom in, and now I could select some of the other parts. So lasso tool right here grabs that. Lasso tool, around this leaf because I want that one. Pretty good. Lasso around this, and I'm not going to do a super good job, but let's do that. That's pretty good. And I could use that lasso tool pretty easily to grab some of the different elements, and I want to get this to, I think I just want that part. And I'm going to grab that. It didn't get this stem. Let's try that one more time. Okay, it's doing a pretty good job. I'm going to get some parts that I don't want intentionally there. So that's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So I like that one. You can explore the different options. So I chose the quick selection, the lasso tool, and I got a pretty decent selection from that. Now I know I have parts that I don't want. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a mask. So I can either go up here and hit select and mask. I already have a selection, so it'll enter mask mode. Or I can click on this right here, and which is add a mask. I'm going to do this one just so you can see. So immediately that adds this new layer right next to it with the black and white. Black hides, or black blinds, and white reveals. So what I had selected, it's going to leave that white, and it's going to make everything else black on this layer, which is essentially like erasing it, but the cool thing is it doesn't actually erase it. So you're not deleting any pixels. So I want to edit this mask. because I know there are a couple parts I want to clean up on here. So I can either go right here and hit select and mask, or I can double click on the mask layer and I enter what's called mask mode. So this is a separate window now here, and I have some options. So let's explore a couple of these options here where I can refine the mask. I can adjust, this is my preview. So you can adjust the preview, the transparency, and go, okay, I want to bring it all the way up to here. Sometimes you want to see the image. I have most of my image selected, so what I want to do, I think I want to change this to maybe the red overlay, and that allows me to really kind of see what areas I need to fix up. So I like that view. That allows me to really kind of see what I need to fix up there. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to try to clean some of this up. So I'm going to zoom in, and there's a couple really helpful tools in here. So this is basically the quick selection brush that we just used. You have the refine edge brush and you have the brush tool. So I'm going to use a combination of these. I'm going to start with I'm going to try the refine edge because I see that a lot of areas, zoom out here, a lot of areas right here I'm catching some of the white. So what you do with the refine edge, and this works great on hair, I'm going to make my brush smaller. Okay, the left bracket here makes it smaller, right bracket makes it bigger. And I'm going to drag out and over that. And it's going to kind of adjust. So I'm going to say I want the petal, I don't want that. So you click on the area that you want first, and then you drag out. So I want the petal, and I drag out, I don't want that. I want the petal, don't want that. So the refine edge does a pretty decent job of kind of cleaning some of those areas up without having to be too careful. Just start on the part that you want and drag it out to the part you don't want. I can even try it there. That gets rid of that part. What about right here? Can I drag it here? Didn't get that. What about here? Can I drag it here? Get rid of that. Does a pretty good job. Now I can see the red coming through, so it messed that part up. So let's try a couple other things. I'm going to use, I think, just the paintbrush one now. So this is either just solid selection or solid not selection. It's not super smart, so you have to control it. So the plus right now, you can see the plus on the cursor is saying I want this selected. So I'm going to drag over that because I want that selected. And now I'm getting areas that I don't want. So if I don't want an area, I can hold down the Alt key and it turns to a minus. So if I don't want that or I don't want that, and I'm going to make my brush smaller, go in here, hold down the Alt key, and I don't want that, you can fine tune it a little bit here and fix up the area. So add to, you let go of the Alt key, and if you want to subtract from areas, like I don't want this area, I'm going to hold down my Alt key and I'm going to get rid of this area. So looks like I'm painting it red, but you're just, remember that's the mask preview here. So I'm kind of cleaning that up. So this is kind of the paint by hand basically here. I'm going to try the quick selection. Sometimes the quick selection is a little finicky though. I can click a couple times and this tries to do it with AI and say, oh, you don't want that part. Sometimes the edges get a little funky, and again, you might need to go back in with that brush and kind of go, oh, I do want that. I want that to be solid here. I want this to be solid here. Maybe I want this little area right here. So you have to do some sort of combination. I'm going to leave it at that right now and just kind of, it's not perfect, but I think you get the picture. You've got some different options here. The Alt key is going to plus and minus, add to or subtract from the selection. And then I just want to scroll down and look at some other options here. So remember, we're just previewing what we have. And I'm going to crank this all the way up here just so that you can see. So a couple other things we can do. Global refinements. If I do smooth, let's crank this all the way up. It really rounds out sharp corners. I don't want that happening, so I'm going to leave that as is. Feather. Okay, really don't want that. That softens up my edge a lot, and I don't want that. Contrast. I don't see a ton happening there, but that does sharpen up the edge a bit. I don't think I need that. I do notice a little bit, if I want to shift the edge and tighten up my selection, if I go this way, it's going to kind of suck my selection in a little bit, but I see weird things happening where I use the refine brush. So I don't think I want to do that much. And if I go this way, you can see it adds that white back to it. I don't want that. So I'm going to leave that pretty much where it was, maybe contract a little. All right. I'm feeling good. This looks like a pretty good selection to me. Now what do I want to do? I want to scroll all the way down to the bottom here. I already have a layer mask created, but I'm going to make sure that, you know, I'm outputting to that layer mask. That's my output. So when I hit OK, it's going to take that, apply, clean up that layer mask, and take me right back to my document here. That looks pretty good to me. I'm pretty happy with that selection. So now that I'm happy with it, I've got my mask sitting here on this document. Remember, we're in a separate document. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this tab. It's going to ask me, do I want to save? I'm going to say, yes, I do want to save. It's going to save it. And when it takes me back here, what's cool is the mask still exists. We just can't see it because it's in the smart object. So if I grab this and move this around, I don't have to worry about the mask unless I go, oh, I see an area I want to fix up. Just double click, go back in here and fix up the mask on this one. Okay. When you're done, you just kind of close that up. I'm going to hit cancel, close that up, go back to your original document. So that mask layer is kind of hiding inside of the smart object, which is a really nice feature. It keeps your document a little bit cleaner and allows you to do some things that you wouldn't be able to do creating the mask layer right in here. So that's it. That's the hardest part, I think, is kind of getting a really good clean selection and deleting things. But remember, you're not deleting, you're not erasing the pixels. They're still there. So if you decide you want to go back and fix things up, you just double click, go back into that, go into your mask and go in and fix those areas up that you want to fix up on it. Okay. When you are done with that, you're going to want to go back and hit OK, close up. Yes, I want to save my changes. Go back here. You're going to want to make sure that you save this. So I'm going to hit Control S, save this. And in the next video, we'll talk about changing the color and doing some other things. But I think this is the hardest step to go in and work with the selection tools and learn what the mask does and really kind of clean that up. All right, good luck on that, guys. That's the hardest part. Practice it, work with it. But the cool thing is you can just keep adjusting as long as you're using the mask. I'll see you in the next video.